Right. So, what we are doing now is chapter 9, which is date of supply. So, under the UAE VAT law, the date of supply rules are naturally quite important because the date of supply dictates the time when the responsibility to account for tax arises in respect of any taxable or deemed supply of goods or services. There is a criteria prescribed to determine the date of supply, and this date of supply determines in which tax period the supply must be reported. So naturally, there's a bit of difference between the dates of supply for goods and services. Let us start off with the date of supply for goods. So the general date of supply rules in relation to goods are there in Article 25 of the VAT Decree Law as the earliest of the following. That's quite an easy scenario. It's common sense. So first of all, when were the goods delivered? When were the goods transferred? If the transfer was under supervision of the supplier. So if the supplier was responsible for delivering the goods to the doorstep of the customer, then when were they actually delivered? Delivered. Evidence could be a delivery challan, etc. Goods delivery note, for example, when it is signed by the customer. Second criteria could be second criteria is the date of placing the goods at the disposal of the recipient of goods if the transfer was not supervised by the supplier, meaning the recipient said, I will take the delivery, don't worry, just get those goods ready, and from your warehouse or your premises I will have the goods picked up, or I will pick it up myself. So that date when they were placed at the disposal of the recipient. Another criteria is goods are supplied with assembly and installation. So, for example, IKEA, you buy an Almira from IKEA, and the IKEA guys come and install that in your home. The date on which the assembly or installation of the goods was completed, that would be the date of supply. Uh, or that date also, for it is considered one of the criteria. So whichever is the earliest, that will be the date of supply. Another criteria would be the date on which the goods are imported under the customs legislation. The date of import of the goods. Another criteria in the case of the goods supplied on a returnable basis. Now that's a very interesting thing. We have something called a sale or return basis. Many big supermarkets, Nesto, Lulu, Carrefour, etc., they allow merchandisers or sellers or suppliers to place their goods on their racks and shelves, right? So they provide the goods, and then they wait for the sales. Sometimes the goods are so good that the supplier accepts those. Sorry, not the supplier, the merchant, the that supermarket, or the customer, the big supermarket, they would send a message to the supplier saying that, okay, the goods are good. We are going to accept these goods. So date of acceptance, the date on which the recipient of the goods accepted the supply, or a date no later than 12 months. Let's say the goods are placed in Ramesh hypermarket, and there is no reply from Ramesh. And the goods are of a nature that can be there on the shelves or other places for a longer duration of time, maybe a year or so. 12 months have passed. Nothing, no answer has come from the supplier. So if the 12 months pass, then by default, the goods will be deemed to have been supplied or accepted by the supplier, and that date will be logged as the date of supply. No later than 12 months after the date on which the goods were transferred to or placed at the disposal of the recipient of goods. So that's another criteria. So memory hook is maximum duration of 12 months. One more criteria, the date of receipt of payment. And one more criteria yet, which is written in the same line, but it's a separate criteria, the date on which the tax invoice was raised. So if you really look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So there are 7 different criteria. whichever of these 7 points happen the first, the earliest, that date will be the date of supply. What will be the consequence of the date of supply? This will mean that the supply has already taken place, and if there is VAT to be reported in that periods, in that month's return, that supply will be included. There is an example. Fatima orders a dress on 1 November, pays for the dress on 1st December, collects the dress on 5 December, and the tax invoice is raised on 9 December. Now, ordering is not covered in any of the criteria. Order means a purchase order. Purchase order has no stance in the scheme of things in determining the date of supply. However, payment does. So if you really look at it, 1 November, we are going to disregard this date. This is the date of the order. Payment happened on 1st December. That's something that we have to consider. So first action happened on the 1st of December. Collects the dress. This is the date of delivery, 5 December. That's a later date. And tax invoice 9 December. That's even a later date. So what happened? In our criteria, the payment has happened the earliest. So that means in this scenario, 1st December will be considered as the date of supply. And that tax period in which the month of December falls or the 1 December falls, that tax period will be the tax period in which this supply will need to be reported. So the choices of these choices, 1 December is the right choice. Date of supply for services based on Article 25 and Clause 6 and 7 of the VAT Decree Law. The date of supply of services is the earliest of the date on which the services were completed. Key point is completed. So start does not matter when they were completed or the date of issuance of the tax invoice. It can quite happen that even the services not even started, but the tax invoice was raised. So that will still be considered during the course of the supply. So that this date will be considered or the date of receipt of payment. Sometimes it can even happen, and actually in the UAE marketplace, people are afraid to raise tax invoices. So many a times practitioners or accountants will see that the payment has happened even before tax invoice, even before the project started. Mobilization advance, for example, mobilization advance. So whenever of the earliest of these 3 points, tax points, this will be considered as the date of supply for the services. Another angle, advance payment deposits. A contract for goods or services may require payment in advance, meaning payment of a sum before any tax invoice is issued and before the main transaction takes place. A customer may also sometimes choose to make a payment or part payment in advance unsolicited. So nothing has happened, just the payment has come from the customer. Further, Article 19 of the regulation states that where VAT is due because of the issuance of a tax invoice, because where VAT is due because of the issuance of a tax invoice or because of receipt of payment, then VAT will only be due to the extent of the payment received. So if it is a mobilization advance, only the VAT applicable to the mobilization advance will be considered, will be recorded, will be accounted for and reported in the VAT return, or the amount stated on the tax invoice. Or I mean, if it is, if there is a tax invoice and the amount is stated on the tax invoice, whatever amount is stated on the tax invoice, that will be considered and that will be reported in the VAT return. Based on the above information, VAT will not be due based on the full value of the supply, but only in respect of the portion paid or invoice. That's a key point for us to understand. Installments or consecutive invoices. There are bigger projects sometimes in which milestone based payments are there. In cases where the goods or services are supplied under a contract that includes periodic payments or installments or consecutive invoices, under Article 26 of the VAT law, a separate supply in respect of each installment or tax invoice takes place at the earliest of the same things that we read. The date of issue of the tax invoice, date of payment as shown on the tax invoice, the date of receipt of payment, or the date of expiration of 1 year. Now this is an interesting condition. If date of expiration of 1 year from the date the goods or services were provided. But this 1 year condition is a special condition where the contract was, it was a consecutive invoices or consecutive installments of payments. In that case only, the expiration of 1 year will be considered as the point which has to be included in our criteria. So whichever of these four things happen first, that will date will be considered as the date of supply. Note that Article 26, Clause 1 of the VAT law overrides Article 25 of the VAT law in the case of periodic payments or consecutive tax invoices, because that Article 25 should be, we have to disregard that if the requirements of Article 26 are met, which is consecutive payments. If it is a one-off transaction, then Article 25 will hold, but for consecutive payments, Article 26 of the VAT decree law will hold. Other special rules, for example, vending machines. Now, the vending machines are kept there, and people just put in the coins and take beverages, Coke, Pepsi, whatever it is, right? And that's it. So, what to do? It's a very difficult situation. Every time a tax invoice cannot be issued, so the Ministry of Finance made it easier. The date of supply in relation to vending machines will be the date on which funds are collected from the machine. Okay, whenever. And the interesting point is they have not written when the funds will be collected. Whenever the funds are collected from the vending machine, that will be the date of supply. What about vouchers? The date of supply of a voucher is the date of issuance or any supply thereafter. Okay, whichever is earlier. So date of issuance or any supply thereafter. That will be the date of supply of a voucher. Deemed supplies. We read quite a few things about deemed supplies earlier on. So the date of supply of a deemed supply of goods and services shall be the date of their supply when actually those goods were supplied by way of a deemed supply, or the date of their disposal in case the goods were disposed of, sold or transferred, the date of their change in the usage. Now, something we purchased like a car or a laptop, which was originally for business purposes, and later on, the owner of the business, they said they transferred the usage to personal use. So the date when the change in usage happened, that will be seen as the date of the supply. It will be, and this transaction will be actually seen as a deemed supply. And you know that deemed supply is a taxable supply. It is defined in the Article 1 of the decree law. Deemed supplies are taxable supplies, right? Which are seen as such, as taxable supplies. The money may not have been received for it, but they will still be seen as supplies, taxable supplies. Or the date of deregistration of the business. I mean, in an earlier situation, we have read in the chapter of the deemed supplies, in the discussion of the deemed supplies, that when a business deregisters, at that time, whatever assets are there in the balance sheet for which the company was able to recover input tax, so those supplies will be seen as those assets will be seen as supplies on the date of the registration, and the tax will be due on those supplies. That tax will be paid to the Federal Tax Authority. There's an example. Hana ordered a toy over the telephone from a mail order supplier, making the payment on 12th November. Hana ordered a toy over a telephone from a mail order supplier, making the payment on 12th December. On 14th December, the supplier sent the toy to Hana. 14th December, that's the date of the delivery. Uh, but the payment happened earlier, making the payment on 12th December. On 16th November, a tax invoice was issued showing that full payment was made. So that happened on the 16th December. Which of the following is the date of supply of the? So I think it is quite clear. Tax invoice was 16 November. The date of delivery was 14 November, but the date of payment was 12 November, earliest of them. So 12 November which is one of the choices given, that will be seen as the date of supply. So these were the rules related to date of supply.